Oh man. Whenever this comes out, this is going to come out ages after it's been recorded. I already know that. Because I am aware that I want to make a video about my body, my relationship with my body and my weight. And, I'm pretty frightened of doing that to a certain extent. I also don't think I really care all that much anymore, but at the same time, there's a few things that will need to happen in order for that to occur and be uploaded to the channel and all that sort of stuff. But I'm realizing that my relationship with my weight and my body has also got a lot to do with my relationship with work and how I work, and my relationship to work and success and achievement and all that sort of stuff has got to do with my upbringing and my self-worth and and then that all relates to my mental health, and it's all interconnected. And I'm sort of immediately like, I thought it would be really straightforward. Like I knew, hey, very soon I'm gonna have to do, at some point on the channel, I'm gonna have to do something about my body. And then I'm like, I don't know, I think that's gonna be a longer video. And I sort of wondered, well, why do I think it's going to be a longer video? And it's like, well, because it's kind of the story of your entire life. Because I'm going to have to like dig out all this old footage. Like, it's funny, I'm wearing this Beer Farmer's hat today, which I got when I was in Canada. And I know a crucial aspect of this video, and is going to be the trip I took to Canada a few years ago, because actually, cue the bear footage.
Bear.
Whoa. Yeah, that bear ran right across the road in front of us. I saw a few bears actually. Anyway, I love Canada. It's a really cool place. But we took, my friend took me on this amazing road trip, and we ended up in a place called, I think it's called Nelson, the town. And while we were there, we went on kind of like a little morning hike, and we went up a mountain, and I'm gonna let the voiceover get the name of the mountain. The mountain was
Pulpit Rock.
Got it in post. But yeah, we went up a mountain, and I just completely crapped out. Like, I could not get up this mountain, and it wasn't it wasn't the Himalayas, it wasn't Everest, but it wasn't a hill. It was more than a hill. But anyway, my buddy is just like very patient person, very kind person, and I had not taken my medication that morning, and so I was feeling kind of out of sorts anyway. And it's interesting, like, how I used to take on board a lot of stress and sort of like will myself through it, but I ended up essentially having like a nervous breakdown several years ago, and ever since then, once I'm overwhelmed, once there's like an overload of any stress, I really just short circuit. you know, and medication helps prevent that. And on this occasion, I was experiencing a lot of physical stress, and I was really starting to just short circuit. Like, I couldn't handle, it wasn't just the physical strain, like my body wasn't up to it, but it was like your mental ability to cope with stress. Like, I've been really fit at various points in my life, and the mindset that I've had in those during those periods is like willing myself through it, like let's get it, let's get after this, let's keep going, let's push, all that sort of stuff. But ever since, you know, the suicide attempt, I'm like, I don't have that anymore. I don't have that ability in my mind. And we were going up this hill, this mountain, and I was getting increasingly stressed physically, but I was getting stressed mentally. And like I say, I hadn't had the medication that morning. I'd forgotten it, you know. Like, you know, if you travel or you're on holiday or something, you just kind of like get out of sync, and, you know, I'd just forgotten it. And we were almost halfway up, or maybe even over halfway, and I couldn't believe I was doing this, but I just turned to my friend and I said, I'm so sorry, I can't do it. I can't go any further. And it was humiliating. Like, it was maybe the worst experience of my life, was admitting that I couldn't do it. You know, it's not the worst experience of my life, but it was up there. I mean, like, I am not someone who ever really considered themselves to be, you know, a quitter or whatever. I thought I was really resilient, and in a lot of ways I have been, but life experiences and mistakes I've made, and, you know, my makeup, and, you know, it's all just sort of, it had all come to a head around the time of sort of 30, 31, 32 years of age. And I was a few years on at this point, and it was a big deal for me to go overseas, because I really had, you know, I'd just been living with Mum, and she'd really just been taking care of me for a few years. And so it was this massive ordeal for me to go on this trip. And I knew my buddy and his girlfriend, you know, at some point they were going to move, and I was going to miss this opportunity to go and like spend time with them in Canada. And so it took a lot to get me to go, but I really wanted to go. And so, of course, when I was there, I wanted to do everything I could, but, you know, I was still pretty fragile at that point. And yeah, sort of, so we're going up this hill, and we get sort of halfway up, and I just realized, like, I cannot physically keep going. Like, I just can't do it. And I've never been in that position in my life to say I can't do this. You know, and actually that's a big problem that I've had. I should have said I can't, or I don't want to, many more times in my life. That has been the problem, has been that I just continue to burn myself out and push through a lot of barriers that I actually shouldn't have pushed through when I was younger. And that kind of fucked me up. So I remember saying this to him, and I was just humiliated. Like, I felt just defeated, like, in every imaginable sense. But my friend is a very good friend, and was like, it's it's completely fine. You know, like, it's okay. Like, you know, I know what you've been going through. It's all right. Like, don't worry about it. And so, but I told him to continue. So he continued going up, and I sort of sat there for a while. And actually, he came back pretty soon afterwards, and he was like, you know, it's not as far to the top as you might think. And I was like, really? You know, and I was kind of annoyed. I was like, oh, don't try and encourage me, because I already feel like a child and a failure and all those things. I'm going to feel worse if you try and sort of like get me through it in a way. But we ended up having this conversation, and he was just like, well, why don't you just give it, you know, the end of the ramp, like the little extra bit to, you know, on the path, and then have a look, and you can kind of see the top from there, and then we can just do it in bits. And I was like, but it's going to take all day if we do this. And he's like, well, we have all day. I don't care. And I was like, all right, okay. And then we just sort of progressively went up. Like, I just kept going up. Like, I did another 20 steps, and I stopped, and just sort of mentally, and then I just did another bit, and another bit, and another bit. And actually having the conversation with him about it was interesting, because really what allowed me to persevere was that I had acknowledged where I was at. Like, I wasn't trying to hold it in with him. I was just like, dude, this is killing me, and I feel bad right now, and I don't feel like I'm up to this, and it was actually just being able to express that helped me more at the end of the day. And I don't know whether that makes complete sense or not to anyone who's listening, but it was, you know, I've spent my entire life repressing how I feel when I'm challenged. Like, I've spent my whole life, you know, I was conditioned to, if something was really hard and it was getting the better of me, to sort of push that down and overcome it, like will myself over the line kind of thing. And I thought that was what, you know, strength and resilience was. And maybe to some extent it is, but I have actually found that being really honest with people can help strengthen you in ways that kind of shove it down resilience does not. And I was raised in an environment where I learned that you couldn't say, I'm struggling with this. That to admit that you weren't coping, to admit that something was hard, was like, you weren't going to get support. You were going to get looked at like you had two heads, and people were going to go like, you're just being weak right now. But yeah, like I've found more strength in honesty and you know, really overall just a better way of being, a better way of living. Has been through, you know, telling people, hey, I'm scared, or hey, I'm having trouble with this, or hey, and learning to ask for help, learning to be vulnerable and not be so ashamed of your vulnerability. I never thought I would have someone in my life who would encourage me to do 20 more steps, or who would tell me, yeah, I've got all day, it's okay. Like, I never thought I would have anyone around me who'd be willing to, you know, put in the time with me. Because growing up, nobody was willing to put up with me, you know, like in that kind of way. It was, you know, I was expected to do whatever they wanted, and if I didn't comply, or if, you know, I took longer than was convenient, it was sort of like you'd sort of be in trouble, you know. You know, I certainly didn't learn trust in people, and I think that really reinforced the resilience, the so-called resilience. It enforced that repression, you know. And it's taken me a lifetime to wake up to the fact that actually I just grew up around assholes. I grew up around people who were really unsupportive, you know. And that actually has nothing to do with me, and I don't need to shoulder the load by myself because the people I'm surrounded by are fucking dickheads. I need to actually be around people who have patience and tolerance for me, and who actually support me. And that has taken, like I said, that has taken a lifetime to figure out. And I mean that about everyone, including the women in my life, the men in my life, friends, girlfriends, parents. Like, I have had to completely reestablish my understanding and relationships with or to other human beings, and to set new standards for myself. But my relationship with my body and my physical health is obviously a larger story about my relationship with myself. And maybe I've laid some groundwork here for where this video is going to go. Ah, boy.